Hey there, Nick. Wanted to record a short little video to talk you through what I would like to see a change on your job description. Before you go much further with the video, please go ahead and look at the feedback. You might want to print out both of the attachments. I've given you back an updated copy of what you gave me in terms of the formatting, and I've also given you a PDF file that's got my scribblings on it. I'm going to be referencing that as I am making this video, that PDF file. First of all, the job summary doesn't need to sound like a job ad, like you would put in the paper or put online. It should be a very concise statement of what this job does. So I want you to eliminate the "here at Amerima we want such and such," and start it like this, something like the customer service representative will do these things. Think about what the main summary of the essential functions would be. Put that into a couple of sentences. The customer service representative interacts with our customers who are either in the store or on the phone to try to answer their questions, resolve their problems, things like that. So reword that a little bit. You don't necessarily need to talk about the great people skills in the last sentence. Just basically summarize the functions so that someone reading the job summary, if they didn't go any farther at all, would know whether to keep reading or not. Also in the middle there, out to the side, I've got frag, that being able to use as a fragment rather than a full sentence. Figure out a way to reword that. On the essential functions, you've got something that says helps and you left it blank. Also, you've got some things that sound more like an administrative assistant. I've drawn a line through them. Again, go back and think about what is the basic function of this job. It is to help people, to resolve problems, to handle complaints, to provide information. So make sure that your functions include those kinds of things. I've written those out. I got a question mark out there. Explain company personnel policies. The customer service representative wouldn't do things like that, so you probably eliminate that. The customers don't care what your personnel policies are. Maybe procedures and things, but at least the way that I'm interpreting personnel policies and benefits, that's more of an HR function perhaps than a customer service function. Under the job context, supervision received, basically what you want to know if you're the candidate is, what's the chain of command? Who do I report to? So you'd say that this position reports to that position, and will that position be here, that person be here frequently? They'll be on site most of the time, they can be reached, if not, that kind of thing. Available guidelines is supposed to answer the question of when I have concerns or confusion about my job, where do I go? So in that section, you want to talk about what personnel handbooks there are or what kind of job guidelines there are. Is there a binder you can pull off of a shelf to answer a question for you? Is there an intranet or a website somewhere that we can go and find things? If we have to deal with chemicals at all, where do we find the MSDS, material safety data sheets? But available guidelines answers the question, where do I look for help in the absence of a human being? What resources are there? Part C, accountability and consequence of error. I want you to think about what might go wrong with this job. The customer service rep could answer a question incorrectly, give improper information to customers. Those are consequences, or those are things that we have to be accountable for. So knowledge is important. But summarize in this part a couple of things about why this job is important and what goes wrong if it's not done well. And then in a sentence or two, what are the consequences? The consequences certainly exist to the company. If you give out bad information, we may have to write off the cost of this to make it right with the customer, so we could lose some money. In extreme circumstances, we may have to discipline you or fire you. What kinds of things could go wrong, and what are the outcomes if they do go wrong? All right, under personal contacts, think about who this position is going to interact with. Certainly it's going to be some folks inside. The customer service rep might have to deal with department managers or other employees or people like that. How frequently will they do that? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it once a month? Whatever. What kinds of meetings will they interact with people? Certainly this person will interact with customers, and that's on a daily basis. Think about who they'll interact with, customers, vendors, other employees, things like that. The purpose of this part of the job description is to give me as a candidate an idea of who I'm going to be interacting with on a regular basis. Am I by myself all the time with no interaction, or do I deal with people outside the company? Do I deal with people inside the company? Supervision exercised answers the question, am I in charge of anybody else? And for most of these positions, because they're entry level, they won't be supervising anybody else. So you might say, unless you're training a new hire, you won't have supervision over anybody. But you decide that. Maybe the way that you design this job, they will supervise somebody else, approve their time cards or whatever else. All right. The physical demands answers the question, what kind of a toll is this going to take on my body? Am I going to be walking a lot? Am I going to be lifting things that are heavy? Am I going to be in a warehouse that has no ventilation? Will I be on my feet a lot? Will I be staring at a computer screen a lot? Those are physical kinds of demands. I would avoid things like tons of phone calls. That's very, very vague. So put that more specifically. What you've got is okay. Build in just a little bit more detail. Work hazards, for most of these things, there are very few work hazards. So you're going to want to summarize there are very few hazards associated with this job. And perhaps minimal. It's certainly okay to say that we follow OSHA standards, but we would expect that from every job. So basically, in some of these things, it really doesn't apply to this job, but you want to address the fact that we've thought about it and we've analyzed this job and we know whether there are impacts or not. Personal demands answers the question, what impact does this job have on people around me about my off time? So you want to answer questions like, do you have to work holidays and weekends? Do you have to travel at all? Is it overnight? Will you have to use your car? Those are personal demands on your personal time, not physical kinds of things, but relationship-oriented kinds of things. The knowledge, skills, abilities, other characteristics looks pretty good. Minimum qualifications looks pretty good. I have added a couple of things to the bottom in the template that I give you. I'm going to ask you to look back over what you've got in the Word file that I have updated for you and use that to make your corrections and send that back to me, because it's now formatted exactly the way that I want it, with the bullets and the spacing and the highlighting and the bolding and whatnot. So try to fill your revisions into that without making a significant impact on the spacing or the formatting or whatnot. And then when you've got that done, email it back to me and I will update that to the website. Hope this answers your questions and gives you some good feedback and some encouragement about how well you did. Looking forward to get your revised copy very, very soon. Thank you, sir.